I sailed a 4,000 passenger mega ship into Glacier Bay National Park, which just so happens to be one of the most beautiful places on Earth, but it was the wrong ship to see it from. That ship just so happened to be the Norwegian Encore, and it was a big one. Fast forward a few years later, and I sailed Alaska again, this time on board Holland America's Koningsdam. The result was the same destination, yet two completely different vacations. So today, we're going to settle it. Norwegian versus Holland America in Alaska, head to head from someone who has stood on both decks, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one is right for you. Now here's something you might not realize when comparing these two cruise lines. Almost every difference between them in Alaska comes down to just one thing, and that's the size of the ship. Norwegian is sending 4 ships to Alaska in 2026, the Bliss, the Encore, the Joy, and the Jade. 3 of those 4 are Breakaway Plus class mega ships that carry around 4,000 passengers each at double occupancy. Now these are ships built for the Caribbean, and they are among the largest vessels sailing in Alaska across all cruise lines sailing there each season. Holland America in 2026 is sending 6 ships to Alaska, and their biggest ship that's sailing Alaska, the Koningsdam, the very ship that I happen to sail, carries 2,650 passengers at double occupancy. Now that's roughly 1,350 fewer people than the Encore at double occupancy. Meanwhile, Holland America's smallest Alaska ship this season, the Zaandam, carries just 1,432 passengers at double occupancy, and that is about a third of what I sailed with on Norwegian Encore, if you can wrap your mind around that, the size difference there between those ships. Now in the Caribbean, big is a feature. The ship is the destination, and no doubt about it, Norwegian builds an incredible floating resort. But in Alaska, the ship is not the destination. The ship is merely the vehicle to get to the destination. And Norwegian has, in my opinion, sent the wrong vehicle times 3. Let me tell you what I mean, because this size difference cascades into everything else. Let's start with the ports, because this is where I felt it first, and let's actually start with the port of Ketchikan. Now when you sail with Holland America, you're going to dock downtown in Ketchikan, which is so convenient because you can walk right off the ship and you're standing in downtown Ketchikan. Creek Street, the shops, the lumberjack show, all of the major sites are right there within a 15-minute walk from the ship. But when I sailed Norwegian Encore, we docked at Ward Cove. Ward Cove is Norwegian Cruise Line's own private port built on an old pulp mill site that's about 7 miles north of town. Now the Bliss, the Encore, and the Jade have preferential docking rights there for the next 30 years. There is no walking to Ketchikan. There's no walking into town. You have to take a shuttle to downtown. That'll take about 20 to 30 minutes each way. It'll drop you off at berth 4 there in downtown Ketchikan, and then you'll still have about a 15-minute walk if you want to get back to the shops of Creek Street. And on busy days, it can get pretty bad. Recently, I saw when 2 Norwegian ships were docked at Ward Cove at the same time, passengers were reporting shuttle waits of nearly 90 minutes, with priority for those shuttles going to guests on ship excursions, guests staying in the Haven, and guests of top loyalty tiers. Everyone else got to town after 9 a.m. And believe me, when you're on a short port call like Ketchikan often is, there's your morning gone. Juneau is the same story, but a different port. When I sailed on Encore, we docked at the AJ dock, which is about a full mile south of downtown. And that's a 20 to 25 minute walk or a $5 shuttle if you don't want to walk. And I did the walk, so I can attest to it being quite the walk. And in 2026, the Bliss, Encore, and Joy happen to be the most frequent users of AJ dock of all of the cruise ships that are sailing Alaska this season, which just so happens to be over 60 total. Meanwhile, Holland America and Princess Cruises routinely get priority at the prime downtown berths, where you can just step right off the ship and you're right there in the center of everything. Are you getting the trend here? It happens in Ketchikan, happens in Juneau, where you're right off the ship. With Holland America, you're right in the middle of everything. And if that's the kind of detail that matters to you, if you pick the ship for the destination and not the water slides, well, this is exactly who my channel is for, because I sell these lines myself and tell you what the cruise lines won't and probably even what they don't want me to. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and come along with these adventures with me. I always am going to give you my honest opinion about everything. Now, a single bad dock on an Alaskan cruise might just be an anecdote, but 2 ports with the same pattern like we saw Juneau and Ketchikan, that's a little bit more structural. The point here is that big ships get pushed to the edges, and your port time is where you're going to pay the price there. And speaking of things that Alaska punishes you for getting wrong, let's talk about your luggage, because I've spent the last several minutes telling you that in Alaska, the smaller ship wins, and the same exact logic is why Level 8 is the perfect sponsor for this video, and that's because their adventure carry-on wins the same way. It's the right size with no compromises. No matter which ship or which line I'm sailing on, Alaska is the hardest packing job in cruising. That's because you need to pack for both 40-degree mornings and 60-degree afternoons, and a real rain jacket because it will rain at least once or every day of your cruise in Alaska. And for most people, that means checking a bag at the airport, praying it makes your connection, and then staring at your stateroom door on embarkation day, waiting for your luggage while everyone else is having fun around the ship. That's the problem that the Level 8 Adventure is built to solve. It's a 20-inch carry-on, so it lives in the overhead bin and never has to leave your side. But inside that frame, you get 45 liters, and when Alaska demands more, there's even an expansion zipper that takes it to 50 liters. The interior has a built-in compression system, so those puffy jackets and fleece layers actually squash down instead of eating your whole bag. I love Level 8 bags, and I recommend them to you. So hit the link in the description below and use code ZTM10 when you do for some savings. And thank you to Level 8 for sponsoring this video. Now, let's talk a little bit about Glacier. And I have to be honest with you about something first, because it's actually quite ironic in this comparison. It was actually the Norwegian ship that took me into Glacier Bay. My Holland America sailing went to Endicott Arm and Dawes Glacier instead. So, if you're keeping score at home, Norwegian gets 1 point and Holland America gets 0, right? Well, not so fast there, because here's how Glacier Bay actually works. The National Park Service allows a maximum of 2 cruise ships per day into the park, and only 153 ship visits the entire summer. And 71 of those days are locked in for Holland America and Princess because they've been sailing to Alaska since before Alaska was even a state. And so federal law protects their historical access. The last contract round where the numbers were made public, Holland America was actually awarded roughly 3 times the Glacier Bay trips that Norwegian got. And in 2026, all 6 Holland America ships in Alaska visit Glacier Bay. My Endicott Arm itinerary was the exception for them, and it was likely just something to do with the scheduling that week. A Glacier Bay itinerary is more rare, so probably that means it's going to be more expensive when you're cruising with Norwegian. But here's the part that the permit numbers don't capture, and that's because the Glacier Day on a ship with 4,000 people is simply a competition for rail space out on those open decks. But Glacier Day on Holland America is a different experience entirely, and that brings me to the biggest gap between these two lines. Let me give Norwegian credit where it's due first. The observation lounge on the Bliss and Encore is truly one of the best rooms afloat for glacier viewing. I'm talking floor-to-ceiling windows, comfortable seating, 180 degrees of Alaska. It's excellent, and I used it a lot. In fact, I loved it, and it was one of my favorite places when I sailed on the Encore. But Norwegian just built a great room for Alaska, while Holland America built a program. I said this in my Koningsdam review recently, and I'll say it again here. Holland America doesn't just sail to Alaska, but they bring Alaska onto the ship. Every single day of my sailing there was We Love Alaska programming in the daily planner that included things like Alaska Q&A sessions, an Alaska brunch, Pacific Giants wildlife talks, narrated scenic sailing, where wildlife, glaciers, and landmarks got called out in real time, including all the way through Endicott Arm, where we even spotted some orcas. And now for what I think is my favorite detail of this entire comparison, and that's the open bow policy. Holland America opened the bow of the ship for every single port arrival and every Glacier Day for every guest on the ship. Not just suite guests, and it was not a paid upgrade, but everyone had equal access. And on most cruise lines, that view is reserved for the top of the ship's pecking order, so I really enjoyed that Holland America did that. And even the hardware on board Holland America backs it up. The Crow's Nest Observation Lounge up front, it's similar to the Observation Lounge on Norwegian, but I will say that Norwegian actually does the Observation Lounge just a little bit better. Holland America also features a retractable roof over the Lido pool, which is exactly what you want in that Alaska weather. And this is a line that has been doing Alaska for more than 75 years, and it shows in 100 small decisions. So is this comparison a knockout for Holland America? No. And if I pretended it was, I wouldn't be being straight with you. Norwegian wins on the ships themselves. The Bliss and Encore are newer, they're flashier, and they're packed with tons of things to do. I'm talking about things like go-karts at sea, laser tag, a huge range of entertainment, and if you're traveling with kids or teens, Norwegian's youth programming and activity list beats Holland America's, and it isn't even close there. Norwegian also wins on dining flexibility, and that's because their freestyle cruising means there's no set times and no assigned tables for dinner, and after a long excursion day, sometimes just showing up to dinner whenever you want is really just the greatest thing. And let's address Holland America's reputation here just head on, because I know you've heard it, I've heard it, we've all heard it. The floating retirement home thing. Yes, the demographic on Holland America does skew older, though there were plenty of families on my Alaska sailing, but older doesn't mean boring. There was trivia, there was comedy, there was live music, there was a Broadway-style production show that exceeded all of my expectations, and the entire music walk that they have there with B.B. King going all night, every night. It's a quieter, more traditional experience overall, and for the right traveler, that's not a warning, that's a selling point, especially in a picturesque and tranquil place like Alaska. So here's my honest verdict for you. Pick Norwegian if the ship experience matters just as much as the destination. So families with kids, maybe first-time cruisers who want to resort at sea, and anyone who wants maximum flexibility and maximum stuff to do. I mean, talk about riding go-karts right up next to glaciers, right? Go and you'll have a great vacation. Just budget your port time around the shuttles, because most likely you're going to be taking them when you're in port, but pick Holland America if you're going for Alaska and the Alaskan experience itself, because you're going to have smaller ships, better docks, Glacier Bay access, and a line that treats the destination like the main event of the cruise instead of just a backdrop for the cruise. And for me, well, I've sailed both, and if I'm booking Alaska again tomorrow, I'm booking Holland America, and it's not close here. The wrong ship in the right place is still the wrong ship, and from the moment I stepped foot off of Norwegian Encore after my very first sailing to Alaska, I knew a ship that big was the wrong ship for me up there. I already know that half of you are down there typing in the comments already, so go ahead and let me have it. Are you Team Norwegian here, or are you Team Holland America when it comes to Alaska? Defend your pick, because I do read every comment, and we'll see what we got down there in the comments. So go ahead and let me have it. Let me know your thoughts. And if you found this video helpful and want more, I will say that the full Koningsdam steps review, my Encore steps review, and vlogs for both of those cruises where I'm in Alaska are all on the channel. So make sure to go back and check those out if you're interested in more. Also, make sure to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for more cruise content to come very soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next adventure.